In 2022, the number of forcibly displaced people surpassed 100 million worldwide. Approximately 1.5 million refugees will require resettlement, but less than 1% will be resettled. The global decline in refugee resettlement, combined with the lack of legal options, has forced refugees to use smugglers to cross borders in search of refugee protection. As a result of these trends, high-income countries have enacted harsh deterrence policies that prevent people from entering their territory to seek asylum. Refugees who enlist smugglers to claim asylum are criminalized and frequently pushed back due to their irregular arrival, preventing them from accessing the rights of refugee status outlined in the 1951 Refugee Convention. The United Kingdom has been at the forefront of efforts to discourage and prevent refugees from seeking asylum on its soil. The United Kingdom has a history of using harsh measures to deter migrants. When Theresa May was Home Secretary in 2012, she stated that her goal was to create here in Britain a really hostile environment for illegal migration. She went on to become Prime Minister. This agenda has been maintained by successive governments, culminating in the UK-Rwanda Migration and Economic Development Partnership. The Rwanda Plan entails sending asylum seekers and migrants who arrive illegally in the United Kingdom, such as those crossing the English Channel in boats, to Rwanda to be processed and resettled. International courts, charities, religious groups, celebrities, and asylum seekers have all condemned the plan. The UN Refugee Agency has vehemently opposed the partnership, emphasizing that state actions that prevent refugees from reaching destination countries and claiming asylum result in shifting, rather than sharing, of responsibilities to protect asylum seekers. In Priti Patel's speech as the Home Secretary on April 14, she argued the following: evil people smugglers and their criminal gangs are facilitating people into Europe, resulting in loss of life and huge costs to the UK taxpayer. The tragic loss of life of people in the Channel and in the Mediterranean at the hands of those evil smugglers must stop. In order to pursue its deterrence agenda, the United Kingdom has shifted blame for dangerous and deadly journeys away from its hostile policies and toward a new faceless boogeyman, evil people smugglers. The Rwanda Plan is thus presented as a means of protecting vulnerable people from smugglers. Secretary Patel's remarks reflect a strategy that many wealthy countries have adopted in response to an increase in the number of asylum seekers arriving illegally. By portraying smuggling as dangerous, criminal, and lethal, these countries obscure the role that violent borders play in fostering the conditions that allow migrant smuggling to flourish. The narrow portrayal of smugglers as evil, greedy criminals provides governments, policymakers, and journalists with a convenient scapegoat. The figure of the smuggler is an ideal boogeyman for our anxious times because it represents an external threat against which states can protect citizens. By framing the global crackdown on migrant smuggling as a battle between good and evil, wealthy countries conceal their role in creating the global market for smuggling in the first place. Instead, unscrupulous smugglers, stereotypically portrayed as people smuggling gangs that prey on the vulnerabilities of people on the move, are blamed for these tragedies. While portraying smugglers as criminals and smuggled people as victims of exploitation and abuse may be politically advantageous, it is deceptive and serves to justify draconian deterrence measures that violate refugees' right to seek asylum. To be sure, migrant smuggling is a lucrative business for organized crime. In 2016, smugglers facilitated the illegal transit and entry of approximately 2.5 million migrants, earning an estimated $7 billion in profit. Smugglers frequently exploit migrants and asylum seekers who are vulnerable to violence, theft, sexual assault, and extortion in their pursuit of profit. Since 2014, nearly 50,000 migrants have died, many drowning in the Mediterranean on perilous journeys facilitated by smugglers. However, stereotyped accounts of migrant smuggling are limited, based on graphic stories of violence, exploitation, and profit maximization. This portrayal of smugglers as naturally deviant and dangerous individuals is deceptive. It is true that smugglers profit from others' desperation, but it is also true that smugglers, in many cases, save lives, create opportunities, and address global inequalities. Smugglers are also described in black and white terms by organizations such as the International Organization for Migration. The large-scale smuggling of migrants across international borders is a global threat to migration governance, national security, and the well-being of migrants. They offer to assist states in disrupting migrant smuggling operations. While signatories to the 1951 Refugee Convention are prohibited from punishing asylum seekers who use smugglers to enter a country of refuge illegally, refugee claimants who use intermediaries are frequently labeled as bogus refugees. Governments criminalize and demonize those who help asylum seekers enter the country for humanitarian reasons. This is exemplified by the criminalization of the evacuation of LGBTQ+ refugees from Ukraine, as well as the criminalization of refugee aid throughout Europe. The UN Refugee Agency recognizes that people fleeing persecution are frequently forced to resort to smuggling. Despite this, the dominant narrative surrounding migrant smuggling has clouded the public's understanding of the issue by obscuring the role smuggling plays in assisting refugees in gaining asylum and rationalizing a global crackdown on refugees in the name of combating evil smugglers. Thanks for watching. If you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories.